Now, if you've been watching our colleagues on the ITV National News this week, you'll have seen their reports on how the actions of just a few individuals can make the lives of their neighbours a misery.
Yes, antisocial behaviour remains a problem up and down the country, as we saw last night in Northampton.
Well, tonight we hear from two Corby women who have resorted to patrolling the streets themselves, despite threats and intimidation. Neil Bradford went to meet them.
6 years ago, Annette Hoggard and Karen McGilly walked these streets together, trying to make them a safer place. Then, the Oakley Vale estate in Corby was practically lawless. Drug dealing, violence and graffiti left many residents frightened to leave their homes. Until one night, the women decided enough was enough.
My eldest daughter rung me up and said, "Mum, there's a load of trouble." So I came back, and this was the occasion where it was Karen's son that had literally been attacked in the middle of the street. I came home, went on a typewriter, printed 120 flyers, went straight out that night, posted them through the door saying from now on there is going to be a street watch patrol every night, noting down any antisocial behaviour.
Patrolling the streets, the band of women faced regular intimidation.
There was an incident where a car just speeded and did a three-point turn directly facing us, and he was just a few feet away from us, just revving the engine. We really thought he was going to just run into us. That was one incident. Another one was where a group of people jumped out of a car with baseball bats and threatened us to get off the streets, or else we were in for it. Another occasion, I was attacked by a youth.
Despite their fear, they never showed it, and continued reporting crimes and antisocial behaviour to police, the local council and their housing association. At first, the authorities viewed them as vigilantes, and there were many times when they came close to quitting, but it wasn't long before their action began to make an impact.
We stood up and we went to court and we won. But I think once they realised that we weren't going to back down, they must have known we were scared because we looked scared. But we didn't back down.
Their work didn't stop with patrolling the streets. They even launched a children's club in the local community centre. Their efforts earned them a special ITV award in 2005. 6 years on, the streets in Oakley Vale are not completely free of antisocial behaviour. Annette and Karen still face abuse and recriminations for standing up to the perpetrators, but they have no regrets about forming Street Watch.
I don't think you could ever clean up the estate. There's always going to be antisocial behaviour. No, we haven't cleaned it up, but it's safe. We haven't had any speeding cars. Most of the troublemakers have been dispersed. They've either moved of their own accord or they've been redirected, evicted.
I just think it's quite peaceful. It's how a neighbourhood should be. And it's like Karen said, you're never going to really get rid of any and all antisocial behaviour, but I just feel that we've got rid of the majority.
The harsh lesson from what happened here appears to show the law alone is not enough. Without the bravery of just a few women, winning back control of this estate would have proved much more difficult. Neil Bradford, Anglia News, Corby.
Yes, the brave women of Corby there who refused to be beaten. Well, the antisocial behaviour which makes so many people's lives a misery is the focus of a Tonight special this evening here on ITV1. And earlier I spoke to Julie Etchingham, who's presenting the show, who began by telling me about a survey carried out by the programme on ASBOs.
Yes, we questioned around 3,000 people across the whole of the UK to get a snapshot on antisocial behaviour, and there were some pretty interesting results. 50% of people in that survey said they'd suffered some form of low-level antisocial behaviour, verbal abuse, shouting in the street, that sort of thing. 20% of people in the survey had suffered serious violence in terms of antisocial behaviour, so a very worrying statistic there. 42% of people said that they were afraid to go out alone after dark because of their perception of the threats of antisocial behaviour. So it's a pretty worrying picture, and that applies across the country. In the Anglia region too, the picture will be very similar.
It is. The figures are shocking there. We've been speaking to people across our region who are doing their bit in the community, but I suppose the more important question is, what are the government doing?
Well, I spoke to the Home Secretary, and you'll see more of his response on the Tonight programme this evening. But he says the police and the local authorities have a whole range of powers in place. And indeed they do. They have ASBOs that they can put in place, famous, of course. There are also injunctions, dispersal orders. They can actually remove people from properties in very serious circumstances. But the key is actually getting the police and the local authorities to use those powers and to act. Now, the Home Secretary also acknowledged that there was more more room, perhaps, for more legislation on this. But really, crucially, what he was saying was that he had to make sure that the police and authorities acted with the tools that they already have. Now, the problem is, of course, is getting that action done on people's doorsteps, and we spoke to some very brave people who've managed to get that done.
All right, Julie Etchingham, thank you very much indeed for that, and good luck with the programme this evening. And you can see that Tonight programme with...
I bet we've all thrown a few snowballs this week. I threw my first one yesterday,
You were out there as well this morning, weren't you, having a go at that?
My two boys. But they're only 3, so, you know, they didn't really get me very hard. That was good.
Well, it is hard to resist. Well, I've thrown a few, actually, but not as many as you, I don't think. But there can't have been many on the scale of what happened today in Thetford.
More than 100 people turned up for a snowball fight organised on the internet. And Natalie Gray, brave girl, went along too.
It was an idea that snowballed. With so many children off school and so many people unable to get to work, the call came to meet at Castle Park in Thetford for the mother of all snowball fights. And they came in their droves, over 100 people of all ages.
Watch the camera. Uh-oh!
So what's better, school or snowballing?
Snowballing.
And why is your school shut?
Because there's loads of snow.
And what do you think about that?
Awesome.
It was the idea of Aaron Peters, who's 21, and from Thetford he put a shout-out on Facebook.
Well, basically I was just laying in bed yesterday morning, looked out the window and it was coated in snow, so I thought, why not have a snowball fight? A few friends will all get together and started arranging it on Facebook. And a few friends turned into over 100 people. We haven't had snow like this in years, so made the most of it.
And we've got this big snowball fight. Are you up for that?
No. I was, but then when I saw the amount of people and someone like whacked one in my face, I then decided no.
Would you like it to snow every day?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was mainly good-humoured here in Thetford, but elsewhere scores of people have called police to complain about anti-social snowballing. Essex Police received more than 100 weather-related calls during yesterday, the highest number relating to snowball incidents.
Well, if you can't beat them, join them. Yeah! Well, I'm hardly going to pick on someone my own size, am I? Natalie Gray, Anglia News! Thetford!
Poor Natalie. She got snowed in this morning and then spent the afternoon getting pelted with snowballs. Now, we always knew we had a talented audience, and you've proved that with a number of spectacular pictures you've sent in. From Bedford to Braintree and from Chelmsford to Cambridge, you've been sending in your snowy snaps from all parts of the region. Here's a look at just some of our favourites. It takes more than a few flakes of snow to keep the Galston fishermen from their hobby, caught perfectly by Alan and Georgina Smith. There's a strong animal theme as well, from Al LeBlanc's chilled-out reindeer in Great Notley to Andy Johnson's Rupert the Bear in Northampton, who is one bear. Rupert, trousers please. Alicia Kelly's Snow Bunny in Bedford has had a few too many Christmas carrots by the look of it, while Ozzy Austin found E.T. in his Buckinghamshire garden. He'll be phoning home for a lift if this weather keeps up. Who can resist a meerkat? Or 4. Jonathan and Christopher Shaw from Great Barton snapped these little fellas. Someone should tell them to face down the hill before push-off. The real things are equally cute and sensible in the case of Chloe and Danielle's cat from Clacton-on-Sea finding cover to keep her coat dry. Deanne Knight's dog from Beccles went one better. A natty coat is so in for canines this year. And can you see what it is? Competition from Stephen Dobromilski from Swavesey. Snow can be so overrated, according to Karen Hopegood from Rivenhall in Essex. It's enough to put a young girl to sleep. While for others, it brings out the more flamboyant side. Let's end with William Moore from Chelmsford. Thanks so much for those. I think Alicia's Snow Bunny was my favourite. Now, you may have noticed that Jonathan has disappeared. The reason? Well, we had an email from viewer Alan Turner saying that his mother-in-law feels that instead of sending Amanda out in the cold, Jonathan should go. Well, no sooner said than done, Alan. Don't say I envy you. What's it like out there?
Alan Turner has a lot to answer for, actually, Becky. I do have to say that. Never let it be said that I'm not prepared to get out on the harsh part of the job as well, from that nice, warm studio that you're in. I'd like to see you get out of here one of these days. But, of course, it has to be said that Alan may have wanted Amanda to stay inside, but actually, no, it wasn't possible. Of course, this is the weather action. Amanda has to come out. This is where it's all at, isn't it? And she's made of tough stuff, Alan, isn't she? Up from the northern parts of our land.
That's right, and I think we should get Becky Jago out here next time
agree.
too, Alan, definitely. But yes, as you say, I'm from the north, so I'm not afraid of the cold temperatures, unlike you in your warm studio.
You say that, but I think it's a very cruel thing to look at me now, no jacket or anything.
That's right. Well, I'd just like to give you a taste of what we've been going through the last few days. Here's just how it's been feeling
that really
here
is.
recently.
That is bitter. That's very unfair. Oh.
Well, I rather enjoyed that. But while he recovers, let's just take a look at the weather.
I think Amanda's in trouble, don't you? From the three of us. Have a lovely evening. Goodbye.